it's Megan from Vigilante Vibes, and with Thunderbolts right around the corner, basically like a week and a half away, I am doing a character breakdown on all the members of the Thunderbolts, and today the focus is on John Walker, aka US Agent. I am going to give you the MCU version breakdown of him, and then I'm going to give you the comic version of him, and I will give you some notable events that's happened in his life that has made him into the character he is today. I will also, at the end, give you the comics that I think you should check out so you can get to know him on a much more personal level. So let's just jump right in. In the MCU, Jonathan John Walker was once a captain in the U.S. Army 75th Ranger Regiment, and he was picked to take over as Captain America after Steve Rogers. But trying to fill Rogers' shoes did not sit well with Sam Wilson or Bucky Barnes, as we can all remember, especially during their chase with the Flag Smashers. After failing to catch Carly, Walker took the super soldier serum just to give himself a little boost. Things took a very dark turn when his best friend and partner, Lamar Hoskins, was killed in action. In a fit of rage, Walker publicly killed a foreign national who was surrendering, which got him stripped of the Captain America title and kicked out of the army, losing all his rank. Walker later tracked down Carly again in New York, but decided to drop his quest for revenge and team up with Wilson and Barnes to stop her from attacking the GRC. Even though he was discharged, government agent Val still saw potential in him and recruited him to keep serving the country in secret as U.S. agent. So that is the quick MCU breakdown of him. That's all we've seen him in so far is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we will be seeing him in Thunderbolts. So in the comics, he's a much more tense character, I would say. I guess just listen and you'll find out. So in the comics, John Walker was created by Mark Grunwald and Paul Neary, and he first showed up in Captain America number 323 back in November 1986. He started out as Super Patriot. His name was not US Agent, it was Super Patriot, a super nationalistic army vet who was dead set on becoming hero. After his brother died in the Vietnam War, Walker joined the military to honor him and basically turn himself into a symbol of America. He and Captain America didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and it showed, and it led to some serious tension. Walker would constantly use his public appearances to call Cap out and criticize how he handled things. Eventually, Steve Rogers gave up the Captain America role because he didn't want to follow the government's orders anymore. And that's when Walker stepped in, bringing a much more intense and aggressive vibe to the character. Before taking over for Captain America, John Walker was out doing his own thing as a super patriot. His main goal in life was to be the ultimate symbol of America, so he ended up getting his powers from a shady scientist called the Power Broker. Basically, a bad guy who messes with biology and tech to make people into superhumans. Walker's whole hero gig was managed by a money hungry businessman who turned it into more of a PR stunt than anything else. Super Patriot was pretty much just a brand name. He'd only go after big crimes that would get media coverage. And when things were too quiet, his manager would literally hire villains just so Walker could save the day and stay in the headlines. This guy was already faking it before fake news was even a thing. I feel like this is what a lot of celebrities do as well. I'm pretty sure. The writers wanted John Walker to fully step into Captain America's shoes, so it made sense for him to have his own version of Bucky too. That ended up being Lamar Hoskins, a former soldier he met during training in Army. When Walker became the new Captain America, Lamar was brought on as his sidekick, originally going by Buck. But that name did not sit well at all because it turns out Buck has some pretty offensive connotations to it. After getting called out, Marvel decided to switch things up and gave him a new hero named Battlestar. Honestly, it worked out for the better, gave the character more of his own identity, and Marvel learned something that day. While he was Captain America, John Walker had a bit more chill when it came to politics. He was still way more intense than Steve Rogers. He never held back when it came to violence, even if it meant the bad guys didn't make it out alive. At one point, he even led a team of reformed villains called the Freedom Force. just because the government told him to. But all that moral gray area eventually caught up with him. His identity got exposed, and that led to his parents being murdered. Devastated and furious, Walker snapped. He hunted down the killers and took them out in a pretty brutal way, even torching the people who sold him out. Once the public got a glimpse of how ruthless the new Captain America really was, it didn't look great for the government to keep him in that role. So they decided to hand the shield back to Steve Rogers. And John went along with it, stepping down willingly. But during the handoff, someone in the crowd shot and killed him. So everyone thought. Turns out it was all staged. The whole thing was a cover so the government could secretly recruit Walker as a covert agent. They wiped his memory, gave him a new identity, and he went by Jack Daniels now. Yes, the drink. And with a new suit and a new shield, he came back as U.S. agent. Since becoming U.S. agent, John Walker's bounced around a bunch of superhero teams like Force Works, Stars, The Jury, The Invaders. None of them really stuck around for long, but Walker never gave up trying to find his own crew. His first team up didn't exactly go smoothly. The government made him the new leader of the Avengers West Coast, but the team had already had a leader, which was Hawkeye. That didn't sit well with Clint Barton, so he ended up quitting, and the two developed a pretty intense rivalry, which is something I'd really like to see in the MCU. Not Hawkeye leading Avengers West Coast, but just that weird rivalry. I think the actors would play it really well and play off each other really well. To get on the same level as peak Steve Rogers, John Walker needed some serious training, so the government brought in Taskmaster, a supervillain who had all of Cap's moves down cold. He basically taught Walker the best techniques and the strategies that Steve used. By the way, shameless plug, I also made a breakdown of Taskmaster that I released a couple weeks ago, so be sure to check that video out to learn all about Anthony Masters. Moving on. Believe it or not, according to Marvel Comics, the US agent is considerably stronger than Captain America. While Steve Rogers' fighting style has been boosted to peak of average human potential, John Walker was true superhuman strength, agility, and endurance. In many fights between the two, he had the advantage. Walker was also been trained in various armed and unarmed combat forms and the necessary knowledge to nullify Captain America's unbreakable shield, an object he carried during his tenure as Sentinel of Liberty. Incidentally, the US agent also uses several shields, including one made of vibranium and created by the Black Panther. Quick side note, John Walker's beef wasn't just with Steve Rogers. Sam Wilson got a taste of him as well. In the comics, this clash happens when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America. The hero is given the shield when Steve Rogers ages out. However, Steve mysteriously recovers and decides that they should both keep the mantle of Captain America, which is weird. Unhappy with the growing influence of a black Captain America, the government secretly summons U.S. agent to force him to step down. John refuses at first, but eventually convinced by Steve Rogers himself. No one knew it though, but Steve was working for Hydra. Deceived, the US agent fights Sam Wilson, but is defeated without much difficulty. So, that is US agent John Walker. He seems like a nice fella. He was. I don't really know where to go with him, but that's John Walker. So, like always, I have some comics for you to get to know John Walker a little better. So, starting with the comics I mentioned before, Captain America by Mark Gruenwald. He shows up around number 323, and you can read it all the way to 371, which is a lot. U.S. Agent American Zealot, U.S. Agent 1 through 5, West Coast Avengers 38 through 46, Avengers West Coast 47 through 52, Omega Flight 1 through 5, Invaders 1 through 9, Captain America Sam Wilson, The Complete Collection Volume 2. So, that is my breakdown of John Walker, aka US Agent, aka the former Super Patriot. He's gone by many names. And we get to see what he will be like in Marvel Studios Thunderbolts that comes out May 2nd. I don't know. Whoops. That's all right, though. I think it's May 2nd. So thank you for watching, and I really, really hope you enjoyed it. So don't forget to like and subscribe so you keep up with all these character breakdowns and anything else I put out. So with that being said, have a marvelous day.